Did you know one of the most delicious things in your kitchen was a total accident? That's right, butter. It's one of humanity's oldest culinary slip-ups. Thousands of years before we had recipes, refrigerators, or nutrition labels, people were just trying to move milk around, usually in animal skin bags. Imagine strapping that to the side of a pack animal for a long journey. What happens when milk gets shaken for long enough? The fat starts to clump together. The liquid separates out, and boom, you've just invented butter. There was no ceremony, no intention. It was just motion, time, and a little bit of chaos. Archaeological evidence suggests butter has been around for at least 10,000 years, probably popping up right alongside the domestication of animals. For these ancient societies, butter wasn't just food, it was a game changer. It was preservation. We all know milk spoils quickly, but butter doesn't. That simple fact made it incredibly valuable. It was valuable enough to shape trade routes, define social status, and literally help people survive through harsh winters. Geographies played a huge role, too. In colder climates, like Northern Europe, butter became an absolute essential. It was a dense source of calories and fat, crucial for staying warm. But in warmer regions, people leaned more towards oils, like olive oil. So, geography decided our tastes long before chefs ever did. Butter also took on symbolic meaning. In some cultures, it was a sign of wealth and abundance. In others, it represented purity. In certain religious contexts, it was even considered sacred. And sometimes, it was forbidden. It's a great reminder that food is rarely just food. It always gets tangled up in our culture, our beliefs, and our history. So, what is butter, really? At its core, it's incredibly simple. Churned cream. The magic happens during the churning process. All that agitation breaks the delicate membranes surrounding the fat molecules in the cream. Once those membranes are broken, the fat molecules are free to stick together. They clump and clump until they form a solid mass, the liquid that gets left behind. That's buttermilk. And despite the name, traditional buttermilk contains very little fat. What you're left with is concentrated milk fat with just trace amounts of water and milk solids. And that concentration is the entire point. It's why butter is such a powerhouse of flavor. Fat is an amazing flavor vehicle. It dissolves aromatic compounds from your food, coats your tongue to create that rich, satisfying mouthfeel, and it slows down evaporation. This is why butter doesn't just taste good on its own, it makes everything else taste better. It transforms heat into aroma and texture, into pure comfort. From a piece of toast to a 5-star sauce, butter is doing the heavy lifting. Now, let's switch gears and talk about its modern rival, margarine. Margarine wasn't born on a farm. It was born in a lab. In the 19th century, Napoleon III of France offered a prize to anyone who could create a cheap butter substitute for his armies and the working class population. Butter was expensive and often in short supply. An inventor named Hippolyte Bouche-Maurice won the prize with a concoction made from beef tallow. That was the first margarine. Over time, it evolved. Manufacturers moved from animal fats to vegetable oils, which were even cheaper. But there's a catch. Vegetable oils are liquid at room temperature. To make them solid and spreadable like butter, they have to be chemically altered. The key word here is process. Early methods involved a process called hydrogenation. This blasted the oil with hydrogen atoms to make it solid. The problem? The problem. Hydrogenation created trans fats. Those substances we now know are seriously harmful to our cardiovascular health. Thankfully, modern spreads have largely removed trans fats, but the process to make them is still intense. It often involves heavy refining, bleaching to remove color, deodorizing to remove smells, and then adding emulsifiers to hold it all together. Compare that to butter, which is mechanically transformed by churning, not chemically rebuilt from the ground up. This doesn't automatically make butter a health food or margarine evil, but the difference in how they're made is significant. Butter is a whole food with a very short ingredient list, usually just cream and maybe some salt. Many modern spreads are highly engineered products designed to mimic butter's behavior, not its biology. Let's talk nutrition. For decades, butter got a really bad rap. It's calorie dense and high in saturated fat. And for a long time, that was dietary enemy number one. But the science has become a lot more nuanced. We now know that butter, especially when it comes from grass-fed cows, contains important fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. It also contains a compound called butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that's been linked to better gut health and reduced inflammation. In fact, some studies now suggest that moderate intake of saturated fat from whole foods like butter doesn't carry the same health risks we once thought, especially when you compare it to the highly processed alternatives that replaced it. But let's be clear, butter is not it's a concentrated source of energy. Historically, that was its greatest feature. In our modern world of food abundance, it's not about survival anymore. It's a matter of balance and moderation. Overdoing it on butter isn't a great idea, but a little bit can be part of a healthy diet. Ultimately, the real difference between butter and most vegetable oil spreads isn't just the type of fat. It's about intent. Butter is what happens when humans work with a natural process, one that's been refined over millennia. Margarine is what happens when humans work around a problem. In this case, scarcity. One is inherited knowledge, passed down through generations. The other is a product of industrial problem solving. It's an impressive feat of food science, but it's detached from the traditions and natural origins of its counterpart. Neither one of them deserves our blind loyalty, but understanding where they came from helps explain why butter has managed to endure, despite every scientific attempt to replace it. Butter didn't survive because of nostalgia or old-fashioned thinking. It survived because it just works. It preserves food. It helps us cook. It carries flavor like nothing else. And at the end of the day, it requires very little explanation. Sometimes, the oldest foods stick around, not because they're perfect, but because they're honest. They are what they are. And in a world full of imitations, there's something powerful about that.